Evening or good morning, wherever you are throughout the world. We're delighted that you're here and joining us for our weekly Lift Me Up. The theme for Centers for Spiritual Living for the month of October is prosperity, abundance, and wealth. And my theme for today is living a joyous, prosperous abundance. When we talk about prosperity and abundance, it can mean many things. But what I want to start with is the actual definition of the dictionary definition of prosperity and abundance both. Prosperity is a successful, flourishing, or thriving condition, especially in financial aspects, good fortune. And abundance is an extremely plentiful or oversufficient quantity or supply, such as an abundance of grain or an abundance of joy or an abundance of peace. The second definition is overflowing fullness, and that would be like the abundance of the heart and probably joy and peace. And the third one actually talks about wealth. And sometimes when we talk about prosperity and abundance, many people think we're only talking about material wealth or material abundance, but that's not what prosperity and abundance is to me. I love Edwene Gaines' definition of what prosperity is to her. And she says true prosperity is, number one, a vital, alive, physical body to provide a comfortable worldly home for the spiritual being that we are. Number two, relationships that are satisfying, nurturing, honest, and work all the time. Number three, work that we love so much that it isn't work, but it's play. And then the fourth is all the money that we can spend all the time. And to me, this is what abundance and prosperity both are. It's more than physical wealth. It is about living a prosperous life, living a life that is full of physical health, full of wonderful relationships, just full of things that we enjoy and that we truly, truly experience to the fullest. I want to share two quotes from Dr. Ernest Holmes. The first one is from How to Live the Science of Mind. And in this, he says, "We can make bigger buckets. We cannot make a bigger law. The law knows nothing about big and little. It knows to do. Since there is such a law and we are always using it, we are all receiving from life an objective equivalent of our inner mental attitude. If we wish more, we must increase our expectancy. We must identify ourselves with more. The law, being absolute, can produce what we call a big thing as easily as what we term a little thing. Mind is a mirror, automatically reflecting our images of thought, be they good, bad, or indifferent, large, medium, or small, as we measure things." And he says in the Science of Mind textbook, "Unless one conceives of himself as possessing good things, he will not possess them. From the objective world of such a one, even that which he has will be taken away." What I want to look at today is how do we live in a joyous, abundant life? Well, first of all, we have to be aware and make a choice to live an abundant, joyous life. We must be fully conscious of the blessings that show up in our life. We must be fully conscious of the abundance that shows up in our life. We must be fully conscious of the loving relationships that we have. Because when we put our attention on something other than the abundance and joy that we are experiencing in life, we allow whatever it is that we put our attention on to become more important and to become our mental equivalent. Carl Jung says people don't actually solve problems. Instead, their attention and energy moves toward what is more compelling, and the problem shrinks because of lack of attention. We could change that. We could think that our problem is so big that it keeps us from putting our attention on the things that we want to experience in life. And therefore, our problem gets bigger and we experience it at a greater degree, to the point that we no longer are aware of the good things and the abundance and the joy and the prosperity that we absolutely have. It's where we put our attention that is our mental equivalent. It is what we truly believe that's what shows up in our life. I think one of the most powerful statements ever made from the Bible or any other book is, "It is done unto you as you believe." And that "as" is such an important word, because what's showing up in our life truly shows us what we believe and where we're putting our attention. So the message here is, if your life is not filled with those things you want to experience, you need to ask yourselves, where am I putting my attention? Am I putting my attention on what I want to experience? Or am I putting all of my attention on the lack that I think is showing up in my life? So the biggest point that I want to make this week, as I have said 3 times already, and will probably say 3 more times before I finish, is where we put our attention is what shows up in our life. As we, many of us have had small children or have been around small children. And we know that it is a very good practice as a parent to reward the actions that we want to see continued, and to pay less attention to those that we do not want our child to do. Because if we reward them for the good, then they're less likely to do the bad, at least in theory, and hopefully not repeated if they do it once anyway. But we do the same thing. Where are we putting our attention? I have talked a lot this summer about my next door neighbor and their journey to sell their house, and how much it frustrates me when I see some of the choices they're making. And their house still hasn't sold. But they sometimes seem to not understand this lesson on focusing on what they want to experience. It is my understanding that the last offer they had fell apart when they would not agree to an immediate occupancy on the house they're selling. And they have a place to move. But the wife was so worried, because it was like 3 houses, that something would fall apart and that their house would be empty, that she refused to accept immediate occupancy, and they bought another house. And it's like, the worst that could happen in that situation is you hire a mover and move some more furniture back into the house if you need to, which would be less than not selling the house. But she was so focused on the possibility of negative that they didn't sell the house. And I do find a lot of times it's much easier to see when other people are making mistakes than it is to see my own. So I'm sure other people could look at my life and tell me where I've done equally silly things. But I hope that I have learned through these teachings that where I put my focus is what shows up in my life. Eric Butterworth says prosperity is a way of living and thinking, and not just about money and things. So when we think about prosperity, we're not thinking about what's in our checkbook or how many stocks we have or our gold collection or any of that thing. We're thinking about how abundant is the life I live. Do I have a healthy body that allows me to do the things that I want to do? Do I have wonderful, loving relationships? Do I enjoy how I spend my time? And if the answer to any of these is no, what am I going to do to remove my focus from the no and allow myself to accept more love in my life, more fun in my life, more joy in my life? And this is the question we need to continue to be aware of. What am I doing to block the divine flow? In the quote I read, the law or God is absolute, and it can produce for us what we're wanting for it, what we want for it. I used to listen to a meditation by Edwin Gaines, and part of that meditation was taking something to the flow of abundance. You could choose the vehicle you took to this flow of abundance. And you could take a thimble, you could take a bucket, you could take a dump truck. I decided to take a train. I was willing to accept all the abundance that could be filled in this train with all these cars. I was willing to accept all the universe had to offer in the way of joy and love and health and wholeness and financial abundance. I was willing to accept it all. And I would allow my train to pull up there and be filled and just allow that joy to fill my life. And some of us think we only deserve what we can carry in a thimbleful. It is the Father's great pleasure to give us the kingdom. It is Spirit's great pleasure to give us the kingdom. It is our job to be open to receive. If we go to receive something with our hands wide open and our arms wide open, we are much more likely to receive it than if we go there with our fists clenched and no way to grab onto what's being given to us. So what I'm asking you to do this week is to look at your life. See where things aren't going quite as well as you would like for them to. And ask yourself, what am I paying attention to? Am I paying attention to what I don't want? And if I am, how do I flip the switch and begin to pay attention to what I do want? The abundance of the universe is there for us to receive. If it's not showing up, it's because we've blocked the flow. We've turned the tap off. I challenge you this week to make the effort to unblock that passage and turn the tap back on, to live a more joyous, full, abundant life. Thank you.